Okay, welcome back to the channel. For this video, we'll be talking to Sir Carlo Vergara, one of yung mga legends natin sa
Legends.
local comic scene. Naalala ko, sir, kasi um, nung high school ako, you were part of Flashpoint, right?
Yes.
So, nung high school ako, nagdala yung classmate ko ng Flashpoint sa klase.
Okay.
Tapos parang pinapakita niya sa akin. Tapos sabi niya, uy, ano to, parang bakit wala kang ganito? Kasi gawa ng local daw.
Okay.
Tapos hindi ko alam kung saan siya nakabili no.
Okay.
Tapos I eventually found copy sa Goodwill
Oh, okay.
bookstore.
Okay.
Tapos eventually nawala ako din. So, actually matagal na ako naghahanap ulit ng copies nun. Kasi lahat ng mga lumang comics dati. Yun nga. So, ayun ba yung first na comics na ginawa nyo?
Ano siya? Well, before anything, unang-una, hello sa mga nanonood. Kung saan kayo. Ayan. Yung para lang to be polite lang sa mga tao. Ayan. Yung Flashpoint kasi, that was oh my gosh, that's like almost 30 years ago. Diba? Ganun ang veteran levels. Almost 30 years ago, 1993, nagsimula yun. So, that was produced by Straight Lines International, yun ang tawag ng company. Pero siya talaga, that was part of Sterling Paper Products. So, so dun sa mga nakakabit ng mga Sterling notebook, mga Sterling greeting card, mga Sterling whatever.
So, I guess kaya siya nasa Goodwill.
Kasi, well, yung alam ko kasi, yung Sterling, siyang nagmamayari din ng Expressions Bookstore. So, I'm not sure about Goodwill lang. Pero sa Expressions Bookstore siya talaga nabibili.
Ang pagkakaalam ko kasi is yung, if you are familiar sa Makati with yung corner ng Chino Roses, Pasunta mo, di ba may malaking Goodwill dati doon? Or was an Expressions? Or I'm misremembering. Kasi there is a big bookstore doon. Doon ko siya nabili. Tapos naalala ko nga Expressions yung pambalot nila.
Ayun, oo. So yun yung effort namin para maging legit kunwari. Legit.
Pero it was published talaga. Hindi siya self-published, hindi siya independent.
Wala kaming nilabas na publishing money.
Wow.
Wala kaming nilabas na printing money.
But that was yung first talaga niyong ginawa. First
yung group namin. Yeah. So siya I was part kasi of nung sa nagtatrabaho ko sa Lasal, there was one person there na si Alex Santos, who also created comics, yung mga Pinoys, yung ganon. And before that, sinabi niya sa akin, Carlo, gusto mo bang gumawa ng comics? Ganyan. Tapos ako ba daw magdodrawing? Tapos, syempre, nung sinabi niya ako magdodrawing, parang let's ako magdodrawing. So, parang, ang dami-dami nun. So, sabi ko sa kanya, magko-comics tayo, pero kailangan pagkakitaan natin yan. Diba? Yun yung mga foolish dreams before na pagkakitaan natin. And then, before I worked in LaSalle, I worked sa Sterling Paper Products. So, kilala ko more or less yung mga tao doon. So, pinitch namin yung idea sa Sterling and tinanggap naman nila as an experiment. And yun nga, because they had a bookstore and it was yun nga nakakatuwa. They had like legitimate yung mga legal versions ng Photoshop nung time na yon na ang mahal-mahal ng Photoshop.
Oo, 1993.
Yes,
grabe, if you have legal versions ng Photoshop, parang made ka nun.
Oo, kasi big ass sila printer sila So yun, we had 3 issues. Tama ba? We had 4 issues with them. Kaya lang because sales weren't, parang sales were not going as well as we hoped it would. Ayun, so hanggang 4 out of 6 lang ang nagawa namin noon.
So there are 2 na hindi na-release, but you done it already? Natapos na yung production for the 2?
Nasulat lang siya.
Sulat lang.
Yeah.
Okay.
So si David Hontiveros na nagsulat ko.
That's the first published nung group mo?
Group na, oo.
Pero before...
The only one na na-publish na.
Pero before, kasi yun yung pinakauna kong introduction sa work mo.
Okay.
Flashpoint. Ang gusto kong malaman ng ating mga viewers is how you started to make comics. Yung comics journey talaga. What pushed you to make comics? I mean, were you a reader first?
Okay.
Of course, lahat naman, of course, parang simula sa reader ng comics. Tapos, parang yun nga yung parang sobrang telling sa fandom ng comics. As in, most of the readers ng comics merong goal na makagawa din sila ng sarili nilang comics. Parang lahat nakakilala kong talagang into comics, gusto rin nilang makagawa ng comics.
Yeah, diba?
So, ganun din. Ganun din kayo, sir?
Well, in a way, during that time, parang hindi ako seryosong nag-isip na, gusto kong gumawa ng comics. Wala akong ganon. Kasi I remember, nung wala pa akong 10 years old, nakagawa na ako ng comics. And it was inspired after nakapagbasa kasi ako ng Walt Disney comics. So during nung bata kami, so meron kasi mga reprints ng Walt Disney comics, so nagbasa ako noon. And then naisip ko lang, parang trip lang, gumawa ako ng sarili kong kwento. So medyo weird yung kwentong ginawa ko, na yung tipong long story short, may 2 scientist na naghahabol ng isang killer germ. Yon, na nakataka sa petri dish. Okay. So yun yung pinaka-gist. And yung imagine mo na lang, wala pa akong 10 years old, yun na yung mga iniisip ko, yung mga germs na nag-escape sa petri dish. So may kabalyuan na ako noon. Tapos and then in high school, doon na ako na-introduce sa Western comics. Doon ko nakilala yung X-Men. That was one of the very first comics na nabili ko from National Bookstore na hindi reprint. And naging fan ako ng X-Men from then on. And then...
What was... Yung era na yun, who was on yung art source nun? Claremont Byrne?
Okay. Sige, backtrack muna. Yung first encounter ko with X-Men was yung Rise of the Phoenix. So the very first appearance ni Phoenix by Chris Claremont and oh my God, I forgot his name. I'm sorry, artist, I forgot your name. Pero yun, the first appearance ni Phoenix. Reprint yung na National Bookstore, tapos naaliw ako doon. And then later on, when I got to National Bookstore, I saw their shelf ng ng pala yung foreign comics naman. So I bought X-Men kasi yun yung nakilala ko. And yung art shorts noon was John Romita Sr. Pero ang nag-ink ata yung anak niya, si John Romita Jr. I'm not, basta I remember na siya, yung adventure was the X-Men go into murder world. Sino yung kalaban na yun, yung nakaputi na tuxedo na
Arcade.
Parang
si Arcade.
Ayan, si Arcade. Ayan. Yon. So it was that issue, ganyan. And then so yun. So pero that was in early high school. And then nung I only started making comics talaga na quote-unquote as a job nung napadpad na ako sa college kasi I joined the LaSalle newspaper. So comic strips naman kami doon. So doon ako nag-umpisa talaga.
So, karamihan din ng mga creators na kilala ko, yung serious na creators, usually nag-start sila sa school paper nila.
Okay. Pare-pareho ang mga history.
So, ayun nga, parang sobrang laki din ng influence ng comic strips sa mga creators dito.
Yeah.
Especially yung 80s, 90s broadsheet na strips. Parang yun yung una mong may expose ka sa local na work eh. Aside from yung sa... Pero hindi ka nag-read ng yung local nating mga quote-unquote bangketa comics.
We collected them. Actually, yung mga kasambahay namin collected them. So, since nandun naman sila around the house, so, na-expose kami, ganyan. Tapos, dun ko nakilala yung favorite Pinoy artist ko, si Mar Santana, na every time, although hindi ko naintindihan yung mga kwento, pero pag nakikita ko yung style ni Mar Santana, tapos nakita ko yung pangalan ni Mar Santana, na-excite ako. I remember nung bata pa ako. Yon. So, I don't know kung subconsciously na-influence ako ng style niya kasi medyo may similarities yung style namin. Pero yon. And then yun nga, yung parang, yung nakakaaliw kasi nung sa mga comics, iba't iba yung mga kwento. And, syempre, mga kasambahay ang bumibili, so they don't buy the kiddie ones. Although, eventually, bumili din kami ng funny comics. Din kami ng funny comics. Pero yung mga ibang comics na expose kami, yun yung mga romance, yung mga action, mga horror, yung mga weird stuff, yung mga ganyan. So,
weird stuff.
Mga weird stuff, gano'n. And it was interesting kasi, yun nga, yung parang even back then, nag-experimento din sila sa stories eh. So, parang yung kahit pa paano, nagkakapaghinayang because it was such a rich tradition nung time na yon. So, hindi na natin mababalikan. Yun lang.
Well, yeah, oo. Kasi sila, talaga eh, di ba? It's their job to do yung stories na yun eh.
Yeah.
And you have to do it weekly. So parang, I would just imagine gaano kahirap yung ganon, kaya ganon ka-wild yung mga stories na nagagawa.
That's true. Yung nawawala na sila ng idea.
Yung time frame to make up something, tapos kailangan pang i-produce ng artist for yung next week na publication. Parang sobrang yung spontaneity nun, I guess talaga mag-spur ng creativity.
Correct. For less pay pa.
For less pay. Tapos, how many pages lang yun? 4? 5 pages lang? 4 pages usually, di ba?
Depende sa publication.
Depende sa publication.
Meron kasi mga umabot ng 8, meron umabot ng 10. Yung ganyan.
Pero parang if I remember correctly, yung sa mga binabasa ko, it's usually 4 pages, yung mga serialized. It's 4 pages. Tapos, sobrang dense na you have to have something na substantial yung nangyari.
True.
Tapos, you need to do that again next week.
Kailangan may nangyayari parate. Yung doon.
Hindi pwedeng filler lang na nagsuntukan sila or something. Parang laging may cliffhanger nga eh. May nangyaring something. Tapos abangan mo next week yung...
Yes. Ay, nako.
Parang yun yung nawalang culture ata sa atin. Kasi most of yung mga creators natin ngayon, they work in their own time. So...
I guess it's because I guess because during that time it was a job.
So wala silang
choice, di ba? Wala silang
choice.
Pero
yun, sayang, like you said, sayang na wala na yung ganung culture of comics creation kasi nawala talaga. Which I got from talking to other creators din sa mga panel sa Comic-Con. Parang itong part na to is lacking with yung ating comics creation. Tapos nagsistem lahat siya sa wala nga kasing tayong standard operating procedures dahil wala nga tayong hindi na siya job. So, pag minsan, wala talaga yung part na yun. As in, usually if ako at yung partner ko nakagawa ng comics, labas ka agad. Doesn't go through yung proofreading phase, walang editorial phase, walang which is maganda sana kasi nakakapag-polish ng work.
True.
So, yun nga, yung root naman nun lahat is dahil wala nga tayong gano'n. Tapos, sometimes...
Considering pa na na parati kong iniisip, my God, parang mas mura pang gumawa ng graphic novel kaya sa pelikula. Yung mga pelikula, hindi naman masyadong kumikita. So, ilagay na lang sa comics.
Well, parang ang problem naman kasi nun is as a self-publisher din, I mean, I'm sure na na-experience mo din, is yung inventory mo.
Oo, nandiyan yung inventory. Although, comic spot.
Yeah.
Comic spot. Kaya yun nga.
Pero yun nga, yung technology nakahabol na ngayon na pwede na tayong mag-ganon. Pero before, nung nagsimula ako, which was 2000 plus, early 2000s, if you publish something, self-publish ka ng book mo, like say 1,000 copies, kahit the thinnest ng floppies nun, that would take 6 bundles pa rin. Halos kasing laki ng maliit na kama. Tapos, where do you sell it? Diba? Diba? If kay National Bookstore, ang daming hingin sa'yo. You have to have yung DTI mo, SEC mo, sarili mong resibo. Tapos, that takes money din. Tapos, yung sarili mong sikap din ng pag-deliver. Kaya nga, nakakatuwa ngayon na you have yung mga comics on demand stuff ngayon.
Yeah,
Pero, nag-jump ahead tayo. So, yun yung parang nag-push sa'yo na gumawa ng comics. No?
Yung nag-push sa akin talaga. Nag-push sa akin, nung push sa akin na gumawa ng comics, di ba, for Flashpoint, may taong nagsabi sa akin na gawa tayo ng comics. Yung ganon. And then, after Flashpoint, the 90s came in. Hindi pa ako masyadong sobrang invested. I was an artist primarily for David Hontiveros' works. So, nandyan yung primarily Pantheon with yung character na Horus. So, yun ang ginagawa ko. And then there was a time na I did something for Angel Ace, for Marco Di Maano, na maiksi lang. Pero, yung towards the after mythology class got the National Book Award. That was around 1999-2000, ganyan. Tapos, tuloy-tuloy din ang pag-publish ni Marco Di Maano ng Angel Ace. Sabi ko, Leche, parang nakakaingit naman na sila, nagsusulat din sila ng comics nila. Ako nagdo-drawing. Masubukan nga. Ayun. So, nagsimula talaga ako dahil sa inggit. Gusto ko naman subukan kung kaya ko rin. Yung ganon. Kasi for most of my career, I was a writer. Yung mga jobs that I've held, writer ako. A PR writer, script writer, nagsusulat ng press release, ng articles, ganyan. So, sige, parang subukan natin, baka kaya natin. Kaya na doon na lumabas yung One Night in Purgatory ng 2001.
One night. I had a copy dati nun. Tapos, sayang nga, hindi ako nanalo dun sa bid. You were selling.
Well, ayun.
Ang dami natin, ayun nga, we lack yung archiving stuff or somebody na nag-archive talaga para sa
marami tayong kulang.
Yeah.
So, yun. So,
usually yun yung yun yung nag-gets ko na parang nagtutulak sa mga creator is having yung peers nila na gumawa na lang something tapos parang ako din gagawa din ako.
Damay-damay lang yan.
Damay-damay. Parang I guess yun yung nagpupush din kaya dun sa mga bata na creators sa community ngayon na gumagawa pa rin sila kahit wala namang wala namang pera talaga with making comics here.
Although it's interesting. I don't know lang kung how many of the younger people you've actually talked to, particularly yung mga gumagawa halimbawa sa webtoon.
No,
sa tapas.
That's totally different beast yun.
Diba?
Na-monetize na nila eh. merong mga bata na na-monetize na nila yung actual na paggawa ng comics. Ang ano nun is yung kanilang market is not really here.
Okay.
So it's foreign market. Tapos kahit sila yung nagsulat, the foreigners, the outside market appreciate yung ginagawa nila. But that's a totally different mindset with yung most of us na nag-start with self-publishing in print. Kaysa dun sa ngayon na digital yung lahat. As in digital.
Yeah.
They have their own format. I mean, dati, if you remember, si Scott McCloud wrote yung he did Understanding Comics, Making Comics, and yung the third one, Reinventing. Dati if you read it, parang para saan siya. Tapos ngayon parang it's a roadmap to what's happening right now.
True. Yun na yun.
Kasi parang konti pa nga lang yung na-touch upan niya dun eh. Wala pa yung dynamics ng social funding, ng social crowdfunding. Which nagpo-fuel ngayon ng iba nating mga creators na mga bata. Na, yung hinahanap natin dati na we could sana make money with our work, sila nahanap na nila.
Pero bakit wala tayo doon? Dapat pumunta rin tayo doon.
Parang ang problem
mag-shift na rin tayo ng mindset.
Yung wiring ng paggawa natin sa processes natin is different sa nila. Parang we have to unlearn other stuff and we have to relearn other stuff to make it work for us then.
Kasi ako on my end naman, yung take ko doon. Kasi matagal na kasi ako nag-open na ako ng account sa Webtoon. Tapos nag-open na rin ako matagal na naka-open yung Webtoon na yan na hindi ko ginagalaw. Yung parang I always had the intention na maglagay ako doon, parang subok lang. And ganun yung format, yung phone format na dire-diretso lang. Ngayon, yung problema ko naman, the only reason why I couldn't get into it is because yung stage ng life ko. If I was in my 20s, na wala akong iniisip na, oh my God, I have to think about my retirement. I have to think about, oh my gosh, parang may asawa na ako, ganyan, may anak na ako, yung mga ganyan. Pag wala kang mga iniisip na gano'n, mas madaling mag-shift ng mindset.
True.
Pero right now, di ba, parang just getting a page out, pag hindi ka, yung for free, parang, wala, I'm now at that stage na parang yung kailangan ko na mabayaran dito. Yun ang talaga.
Gets ko naman. I get it kasi nandun na rin ako halos sa stage na yun. I have a kid. I have, tapos sometimes I'd rather do something that I'd get paid for kasi you have bills to pay and everything. Sobrang, kagagaling ko lang din sa interview for Comic Con Indiket 2021.
Okay.
Tapos most of yung, I spoke with yung mga collaborators ko. And lahat kami na yung payo nila with yung comic collaborators is look for somebody younger. Kasi lahat ng ginawa namin before when we were in our early 20s, yun yung sobrang sipag namin.
Talaga. And when we were doing Flashpoint, I was in my early 20s. At yun, yung parang dahil there were other people who were paying the bills. Gawa ka lang.
And when we were in our early 20s, we had day jobs. So, essentially, we were doing yung comics namin on somebody else's time and pay.
And apart from that, nandun pa rin yung endurance ng youth.
Yun. And mas mas excited kang gumawa. Mas
That's
excited,
That's true.
Parang yun yung mahirap i-sustain. It's yung excitement about doing something. I mean, it's still okay. I mean, I still parang excited pa rin ako every time. Kahit hindi ko project. actually. If I'm putting together something for a publisher, na-excite pa rin ako pagpatapos na or habang binubuo. Pero nung bata ka talaga, iba yung magic nung paggawa.
True. Pero yun nga pero there's the question. The question is, if the environment natin is as thriving and as healthy, let's say, as the Japanese industry, although the Japanese industry has its own problems pagdating sa manga nila, pero if we were like kahit kalahati nun, or kahit 30% nun, parang feeling ko parang kahit paano mas exciting siya.
Yeah.
Di ba? Parang
mas exciting.
laki-laki ng patronage kasi ng Japan sa manga nila.
Well, yeah. Pag minsan nakakapanghinayang lang kasi we used to have that. Di ba? Maririnig mo sa mga stories ng ating mga veterans na they would have yung checks na malalaki talaga every week. Lalo na yung mga sikat na... Tapos, ngayon, yun nga, I guess kaya hindi rin nila ma-accept yung current itsura ng comics as comics. Kasi hindi yun yung alam nila na comics. Where are yung hundreds of thousands na distribution? Where is yung check mo for ganito? Where is yung... So parang anything na you do right now is parang hindi yan comics for them.
Sa tingin mo, kaya pa? I mean, based on do you think it's like, is that like a long gone thing na hindi na maibabalik? What do you think?
For now, I don't see it na babalik sa ganun. Kasi same format. But what we discussed kanina about yung sa digital form niya could be yung next stage nung comics natin. I mean, the kids have found a way to monetize yung effort nila. And kung meron tayo sigurong ganun na webtoons, ganung platform na I guess webtoons have their own in-house din, di ba? Aside from those who are...
I don't know.
Alam ko merong there are studios na nag-hire na straight to webtoons. So they are earning something from that. Kung meron tayong companies right now na magpo-produce ng ganung content, tapos they can market it na hindi lang sa atin, outside din, pwede nating maibalik yung ganun. Pero yun nga, it's going to be totally different, hindi content-wise yung format-wise. Parang yung floppies natin, yung 100,000 distribution, nationwide distribution, parang wala na yun . Parang ang nakikita ko na is digital, tapos compilations.
Yeah, true.
Prestige format books, more for the collectors na.
That's true.
Tapos yung casual readers would be the ones na nag-internet. Mga nagpipisonet, yung mga ganun na. Yun na yung bangketa format natin is yung either free previews na makikita ng anyone. Tapos for the serious readers, mga sumusubaybay talaga, would be yung subscription-based na. Okay. Pero interesting para sa akin yung sa Comic Spot for example, 'di ba? Comic Spot has the digital component and they have the print component. Yes.
What I really like about Comic Spot is they accept GCash and PayMaya, if I'm not mistaken. 'Di ba? Yun yung for me yun yung ultimate test. Kumbaga minsan kasi the barrier for a lot of buyers is how am I going to pay for this na I don't have a credit card. So butin lang meron silang yung may GCash, may PayMaya para mas madali yung anyway, and it's only a matter now of promoting the work from Baguio all the way down to Davao. Yun lang ang yun lang nakikita kong kulang sa atin. It's that machinery to actually get the word out across from top to bottom. Yun lang Kasi pag natap lahat yon, if you have like I don't know,
if you
have
tick
like,
every boxes nung sinasabi natin ngayon, it would mabubuhay ulit yon. Mabubuhay ulit.
Oo. Yeah,
kasi
like,
yun
like
yung pinakamalaking hurdle with comics. Sobrang insular nung community. I mean, if you step outside ng bubble natin, yung biggest creators natin, walang may kilala. Tayo-tayo lang may kilala. I mean, I'm surprised even na yung mga younger creators don't know si Sir Arnold.
Yeah, di ba? kaya yun. Okay, ito I'm not going to say hinanakit because that's not the word I'm looking for. There is that whole idea that comics journalism sa atin is practically zero. It's practically zero. Sa US, you have comic book resources, you have The Beat in Publishers Weekly, you have all these other websites, these platforms, na kung merong lumabas na comics, ni-report nila. Kung may nangyayaring milestone sa isang comics title, ni-report nila. So kumbaga, they treat comics like others would treat movies. Yung meron din mga fan theories about certain stories, mga ganyan. They release that stuff.
Yeah.
Tayo wala.
Actually, sa kanila nga, meron silang rumor sites pa eh. As in, yung blind items.
Oo, yung ganon. So, kumbaga, wala tayong level na ganon because, I don't know, nobody seems to think that it's worth the time. It's not, wala pa tayong magganong ka-level ng fan person. Ayoko mong fan boy. Wala pa tayong ganong level ng fan person culture. Pagdating sa comics natin, wala pa tayong gano'n. And the only thing that we have right now is the academic. Because there are academics who have started to write about our stuff. Pero pagdating sa the mass market, or at least the market that we want to buy our stuff, they're not there. They're not talking about our work. So and if no one talks about our work, then ako, ikaw, in 20 years, no one will know what we've done.
Yeah, totoo yan. Totoo.
Yan.
I guess yung kasi is most of yung mga comics journalists natin are creators themselves. So sometimes, yung effort to raise awareness for other titles cuts into yung effort nila to raise awareness for themselves. So, ang hinahanap talaga natin is third party, someone na
walang stake. Wala siyang stake.
Wala siyang stake na pag-uusapan tayo.
Yeah, wala siyang stake na pag-uusapan tayo. At okay lang, yung kumbaga, parang, yung passion niya is to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not making. It's really just to talk about it. And kung monetizing naman yung gusto niya, you can monetize a news site, you can monetize a blog, you can monetize your YouTube, you can monetize whatever, ganyan. So, parang it's, and lalo na ngayon na ang dami-dami natin, across the board, from graphic novels to webtoons to comic strips, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, totoo yan, totoo. Pag minsan kasi, ang nangyayari na lang is, yun, which is yung kaya ako gusto makipag-usap with a lot of other creators, which is why I'm starting this, para baka meron tayong maabot na someone na gano'n.
Yeah, oo.
Kasi ako, I mean, I'm not one of yung most influential na creators. I see a lot ng mga bata na nasa 5,000, 14,000, 20,000 followers sa Facebook. I mean, wish ko lang yun. Aabot ng ganun. Pero yun nga, if we could tap dun sa mga market ng mga yon, tapos have someone else na, like what happened with si Sir Budget and kay Sir Kadjo and their 13, di ba? Started the ball rolling kasi na-feature sila sa ibang platform.
Yun nga eh. So that's also the thing. That's also what we could say is wrong.
What?
With the culture that we have. Am I choppy?
Yeah,
Choppy pa ba ako?
Ayan. Ayan, okay na.
Choppy ako?
Yeah.
Okay na?
Okay
Diba,
na.
parang that's also one thing that you could say is wrong with what we have. Now, you have to reach a certain level of, you have to cross over something in order to be noticed. Diba? Parang our value as comics is only as good as how far you go. Kung walang value ang being a comic itself. Diba? Parang unless, if ever there is, it's your comic strips have more value than the long form. So you have people like, Manix Cabrera. You have Tarantadong Calbo. You have Hunghang Flashbacks. Their reach and their popularity mas matindi kaya sa mga long form. Yung sa atin. And it's also because of their format. Because easily digestible, they're relatively faster to make. Not of course to say na hindi mahirap gumawa ng comic strips. I mean, mahirap gumawa ng comic strips. Pero yun nga, the thing is, because you can post it on social, and yun na yun, you don't have to wait for another episode to know what happens next. Yun na yun. So it's very shareable. It's the follow potential is very high. Yun, parang for comic strips, iba yung benefits nila. For us na long form, yun nga, parang kailangan mong ma-adapt. Kailangan mong ma-pick up ng foreign publisher. Kailangan mong
kailangan mo pansin sa ibang lugar bago ka mapansin dito.
Yeah. Oo, correct. Yun, so parang
yun nga yung weird. Meron pang weird something with our market. I mean, we have yung comics collector market, pero there are sobrang focus lang sila with yung ating mga foreign imports. And they don't buy yung locals. I mean, meron talagang parang barrier na if you go to a comics community, let's say it's 100 members, 3 lang doon yung bumibili ng local. Oo.
Ayan.
Hindi ko maintindihan yung part na yon na why you are parang appreciate yung medium ng comics pero you don't really buy yung local works. Tapos most of the time, ang tingin nila sa local works are either just copies nung foreign imports or they're ripping off yung foreign imports pero they've never really tried. Yun lang yung mindset nila.
Hindi, I think on a kasi yes, agree ako na there are people na yung talagang focus nila are the foreign ones. Yung parang when you look at yung mga ibang groups na comics collectors na Pinoy, yung talagang focus nila mga Marvel, mga DC, mga ganyan. And parang I can't really fault them that much kasi yun yung nakasanayan nila.
Yeah.
At nakabuild na sila ng parang yung may emotional connection na sila doon. Yung challenge naman kasi natin because we are essentially like an emerging pa rin tayo eh. And there is a lot, di ba? Mas marami pang, we do not have the kind of machinery that Marvel and DC has.
Yeah.
Wala tayong machinery na gano'n. Ang dami-dami nating output. Parang hundreds, if not thousands of Pinoy comics out there. Kung baguhan ka and you say, oh, I wanna get into Pinoy comics talaga, saan ka magsisimula? Kung pupunta ka sa PenLab, pupunta ka sa Comic Spot, pagpunta mo sa homepage, ang dami-dami ng mga nakalagay. Na parang, saan ako magsisimula? Paano ko malalaman kung ano yung maganda? Paano ko malalaman na ito yung genre na gusto kong basahin? Yung ganon. So, that's also one thing na maybe PenLab or Comic Spot can get into. Do they have a review function where readers can actually place reviews? Because when I last checked Comics Spot, marami sa mga comics walang reviews.
Yeah,
Ganyan.
pero they do have that na system that you could actually put yung input kaagad,
Yung reviews.
instant.
Oo. Oo. And
Which
then,
is I like din kasi maganda yun. Sana nga lang ginagamit.
Yun nga, yun ang tanong dyan. Yung parang nandun din yung culture natin na we don't like to review.
Well, ayun din kasi
Oo, kasi natatakot tayo.
Na makatapak or
ganon. So, given na walang nag-review, walang comics journalism, people don't know what's good, people don't know what's not good, ang daming selections. So, mas malaki ang chances mo to find bad work compared to good work.
Yeah.
At pag mas marami kang bad work na nakikita, you will jump to the conclusion na walang value dito. Kasi wala kang gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Diba, I remember there was a talk before na maraming mga comics creators who do not like the gatekeepers because it's like stifling yung freedom nila. Diba? Correct. That's one thing that gatekeepers do. They do tend to stifle the freedom. But on the other end, the gatekeepers also help you with the quality. Marami akong nakitang comics na yung grammar, yung punctuation, yung mga paneling, yung mga ganyan.
Yeah.
So, parang, ano ngayon gagawin natin?
Umikot ulit tayo dun sa usapan na yung culture nga. Like I said, ang culture ng comics creation natin right now is once you produce, release ka agad. Nawala yung steps natin ng proofreading, nawala yung steps ng editorial, nawala yung steps ng yung polishing part. Kasi nga, walang nagpo-push for anyone to do that. Kasi hindi naman kailangan. Kasi hindi naman ito work talaga. Which is kaya maganda yung napag-usapan natin na kung maibabalik yung industry, maibabalik yung... Kasi that would put in place yung culture ulit ng pagkakaroon ng ganun.
Incidentally, I need to make kwento this. Kasi, di ba, I teach in Benilde. I teach at De La Salle College of St. Benilde. And I am the advisor of their comics org, Draw Inc. So that's the name of their comics org. It's Draw Inc. And so they're not just fans, they're also makers. And yung culture na ginagawa nila sa org is exactly that culture. It's, let's go through the steps, let's go through an editorial process. Ultimo, character design, kailangan magbigay ka ng plates. Kailangan ka magbigay ng plates, kailangan ka magbigay ng proposal. There's an editorial team who will check and who will give revisions and ganyan. Script, there's a script stage. Pag-usapan natin yung script. Ayusin natin yung grammar mo, ayusin natin ang punctuation mo. There is a thumbnail stage. Hindi ka pwede gumawa ng final art until may thumbnails ka. So, gano'n lang ginagawa nila ngayon, at least in that org. So, hopefully, parang that's the kind of culture that we're looking for.
Yeah,
diba? Pero yun nga, that's an org. So, kumbaga, even though they're not making money, syempre, parang they need to deserve the status of org in a college. Kailangan meron silang rigor.
Yeah. Required siya.
Oo. So, yun.
Maybe we could start with that. Kasi parang if we have ganung mga org sa lahat ng universities or school, or as early as high school actually, as early as elementary kung may ganun tayong mga orgs, may instill yung ganung culture ng paggawa ng comics. Ang nangyayari kasi ngayon, I can't fault din yung mga creators ngayon kasi most of them usually dive into making comics without really guidance from anyone, without yung ano talaga, magte-test lang talaga sila ng waters ng paggawa ng comics, either by watching a YouTube video or without even looking at anything, guidelines. As in, yung alam lang nila, it's panel work, drawing ka, tapos saka na lang kayo magawa ng kwento pagkatapos natin madrawing.
Oo. Yun.
Pero yun nga, you can't really fault most of them. Pero yung karamihan, like I said, sa madalas sa mga panels that I host, I've been witness to a lot of comics creators coming in sa event namin, which is Comic-Con. Tapos, usually, ang mga matitira dyan is yung mga talagang gustong gumawa ng comics and would eventually learn the proper way of making comics by talking to other creators then. So, maganda yun kung ma-institutionalize natin yung process, yung culture of proper channels ng paggawa ng comics.
Yeah.
Which is okay naman kasi we have creators na nagtuturo sa academia. Pero that's masyadong konti lang.
Di ba ang dami-daming ang dami-daming layers, ang
daming layers tapos magka-connect siya na hindi mo rin parang ano yung una nating aayusin? Ano yung una nating
Although sige, parang just for the sake of discussion, kung ikaw yon ang magde-decide, saan tayo dapat magsimula? Ano yung sa'yo?
Kung sa akin? Personally, simulan natin sa schools. Sa schools. Kasi, katulad na pinag-usapan natin, if you are old na, it's so hard to unlearn things. Pero, we could have the next batch, the next generation, the next batch of creators, grow up on a proper na procedures, proper process ng paggawa ng comics na maituturo ng mga older creators from what they learned from experience, tapos from ano yung mas mapapolish pa na process na pwede nilang sundan. Kasi sila na yung susunod eh. I mean, yun yung nakikita kong ano. Also, if you have something like that sa schools, mas aware sila na merong comics community, even if wala pa yung industry. Mas aware sila na nag-i-exist itong mga gantong bagay.
True. So agree ako sa'yo na it has to start from schools. And it's not just about the education about production. It's also really about just simple exposure lang. Simple exposure lang. Yung parang yung it's that idea na meron palang ganito. Which I think na not all there are people who still think na it's dead. There are still people who think that it doesn't exist. Ganyan.
Some people don't even know na may comics dito. Let alone dead. Hindi nila alam na merong tayong comics history.
Oh my God.
Diba?
Oh my God.
For yung mga early...
Na-erase tayo, John.
Na-erase, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, yung primary parang pinagkukunan ng pop culture ng Pilipinas was comics. Tapos, ngayon wala na may alam nun. Parang they know Darla from yung TV or movies. They know Captain Barbell from yung TVs or movies. Pero yung comics, hindi nila alam yun.
Wala. Oh my God. Wala na. That's it.
Actually, I discussed to with sa Congress. They were asking a group of creators of how they can help. And one of the best things nga na masabi namin is raise awareness. Not just for yung comics ngayon, as in yung comics sa history natin. Kasi it's part pa rin naman, di ba? It's part of yung art, part of ng culture, part of ng literature. And we have a rich history.
Yes, definitely. So it goes back again to information dissemination, creating some kind of comics journalism, yung mga ganyan. Ayun nga nung tawag dito, nung birthday, was the birthday? Basta may nangyari before about Kuching. Parang birthday yata ni Francisco Kuching or something.
Yung 100 years.
Yung
Yung 100th
100 years.
birthday.
O, yung 100th birthday. Wala akong nakitang masyadong write-up about Kuching. Mas marami pa akong nakitang write-up tungkol kay Danry. I mean, Danry is a wonderful person. 'Di ba? Parang wala tayong issue doon. I mean, Danry, wherever you are, we love you, ganyan. Pero yun nga, yung parang the fact na wala nung birthday ni Kuching, parang wala, no one. No one gave a shit. That's like, and he's a national artist. Parang,
one of our only two national artists na representing yung flag natin.
Oo, di ba? So, parang it's like, okay, yun. So I think to your point, if we're gonna go with the schools, then it has to be the orgs. It really has to start with the orgs. Kasi yung parang we cannot do the job on our own. It's really the orgs that's and hopefully they'll not just listen to the young people or the young creators. Meron din naman tayo mga matatanda na may mga may dudulot sa kanila.
Parang sobrang realization. Parang I came across a article tapos about Pen Lab. Tapos introducing new creators and some classic titles. Parang
classic titles!
When did I become classic?
Ay, naku, John. Ako naman matagal ko lang tinanggap na paputang veteran na ako. So, umpisahan mo na. Get used to it. Whether we like it or not.
we can learn a lot. Kasi aside from yung, I would consider us yung yung veterans as yung older brothers, older siblings. Tapos we have yung younger, we could learn a lot from each other.
True.
Pero ang problem is nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to talk to.
And one factor there also is about survival there. One thing, survival in the sense na ang dami-daming creators, parang when do I get the chance to talk about myself? If I have to talk about other people, yung ganyan. Parang, when do I get to promote myself? Are people going to promote me? Yung ganyan.
Most of yung mga sentiments that I get from other creators, younger creators, is, yun nga, when they would often criticize our guest list. Pero magiget mo yung sentiment na, bakit hindi ako? Magigets mo na, it's not about, tapos pag tinanong, bakit hindi siya? So, hindi naman sila makasagot na, kasi ganyan, ganito.
Okay. Curious ako dyan. So, parang hindi sila na-invite sa panel? Ganun ba yun?
Kasi di ba we usually spotlight 3 artists for our events.
Yes.
Tapos we give them tables, we give them panels, and sometimes iba pa yun sa panels. Di ba? We spotlight 3. Usually, they come from either one of the indies, one of yung mga foreign published, tapos one of the comic strip artists. Ganun yung usual na format. Or if may possible, one of the legends. Tapos, you cannot guess, parang ma-spotlight lahat naman eh. So, mahirap.
True, ang dami.
Kasi, especially us, na wala naman kaming funds or grants or anything, we still finance everything with Comic Month. So, sobrang limited lang yung kaya namin i-spotlight. So, nagiget ko naman na for a upcoming or bagong creator, medyo kailan yung turn ko? Kailan ako ma-spotlight? Sometimes you have to factor in din yung effort na binibigay mo sa craft mo. Di ba?
True.
Yung, do you promote your work? Yung quality nung nire-release mong product. Kasi like you said, if you are gonna be spotlighted, ikaw malamang yung maging entry point ng some new reader. Kasi if you spotlight sa event, ikaw yung pupuntahan nung attendee that is yung bago lang sa community.
Oo.
So, yun nga, you have to consider din na kung ano yung product na ina-offer mo.
Yeah. Ayun. So, now, it's now a question of who gets to decide what's good and what's bad.
Yeah. Sometimes, we do not want yung onus na yun.
Diba?
Pero we have to kasi...
We have to. Yun, we have to.
Yun. So, pag minsan, you can't really please everybody. Tapos, doon nagsa-start yung sentiment against something. We want to help everyone. We want to promote everyone. Kasi naman talaga yung goal ng Comic-Con, it was to provide something para sa mga creators na makapagbenta sila ng comics. That's why kahit kami siguro yung pinakamaliit pa ring pop culture event ever, hindi namin binago yung format kasi ang ano lang ba yung ino-offer ng Comic-Con? Comics lang. Since day one, comics lang. I mean, ang dami nag-offer sa amin na tie up with somebody, put mga celebrities, put bands, put cosplay, put everything, mag-rise yung foot traffic nyo. Pero we never did. Ang ano pa rin, ang universal selling point, unique selling point pa rin ng Comic-Con since day one is pag pumunta ka ng Comic-Con, makakahanap ka ng comics na ng comics na local. Yun lang.
Yeah, and that for me is still the best. That for me is still the best. Yung ganon. Yung parang, I mean, in terms of a comic book convention, kung comic book convention as comic book convention, it's Comic-Con for me. Yung ganyan. There is value, of course, in the other conventions. For example, Comic-Con has value. Ganyan. Pero yun nga, yung parang Comic-Con as an arts market, you'll still get the stickers, you'll still get the merch, you'll still get the yung mga ganyan. Pero for, at maraming may gusto nun. Pero for someone who's looking for pure comics, I think comics talaga, then for me, it's Comic-Con. Yung ganon.
Pero yun
I'm not sure.
Ikot tayo ulit dun sa ano natin na we need someone else na mag-market sa atin.
True.
Kasi Comic-Con, yung medyo tumanda na siya. As in, matanda na actually.
Oo, matanda na siya.
And ang tingin na ng mga bata sa kanya is, while it is not really an institution, parang yun na yung kailangan mong mag-rise up against.
Okay. What do you mean?
Yung parang nagiging, well, hindi naman ako sure, pero parang yung feeling ng nila is it's an oppressive something na si-single out ng kailangan i-promote, tapos yung mga hindi nila napapansin or anything. Pero we try to promote everyone.
I remember that. Yung may nagreklamo na I don't know if you can actually talk about this. Yung parang yung mga yung parang nasa sideline sila, ganyan.
Yung mga ganun.
Yeah.
Pero especially it's still a business in a sense na we have paying booth for exhibitors.
Yes.
And of course, hindi mo naman sila pwedeng sila yung ilagay mo sa mas less desirable na mga places or spots sa trade show mo. In fact, maganda nga actually yung we heard a lot of good things dun sa mga yung Indie Changge, which usually caters to the newer creators. Kasi we had foreigners come to the event tapos natutuwa sila na, oy, may spot here that these are yung mga new creators. Tapos they're trying to teach them how to before putting them dun sa main trade room.
Diba? Yeah. Actually, mas gusto ko nga mas gusto ko nga doon sa separate room Ayoko sa main floor. Kasi ang dami-daming tao. Naapektuhan yung introvert self ko. Nag-drain ako sobra. Ganyan.
Lalo na sa position mo kasi katabi mo pa si Manix. So si Manix.
Oh my God. Grabe yun. Alam mo yun nga, yung super believe lang ako dun kay Manix, yun nga, yung umabot sila sa point na kailangan maglagay sila ng number na parang bangko, yung ganyan. Oh, for customers number, ganyan pa rin.
It happens din online. They're selling yung new book ni Manix, yung Little Bertong Bad Trip.
Oo, yung Bertong Bad Trip.
They have to resort to mag-upload ako sa Shopee ng 30 copies ng 9 p.m. Mag-a-announce si Manix. Maglalagay ako ng 30 copies sa Shopee shop ko ng 9 p.m. Okay? Tapos punta ako doon ng 9 p.m. para to get yung book. Sold out. Tapos, naubos agad yung 30 copies. Mamayang 12 a.m. maglalagay ulit ako ng 50 copies. Pagpunta mo na ng 12 a.m., wala na ulit.
Diba? Parang at this point si Manix ang dapat may dokumentaryo.
Yeah.
Siya yung dapat may dapat nandun na siya eh.
Tapos hindi lang sa Metro Manila yun. Any point sa Philippines, pumunta ka na nandun si Manix. Tapos nakakatawa pa rin is every time na may events, makita ko ni Manix, ay, alam mo nasaan yung table ko? Tapos sabihin ko kay Manix, madali lang yan. Hanapin mo may mahabang pila.
Oo, yun na yan. Sa'yo na yan.
Yun na yun. Nakikita ka na doon.
Oo. Siya yung nagsasara parati ng Comic-Con.
Sobrang phenomenon nga yung si Manix. And I'm happy kasi unlike most of yung comics creators natin na katulad ko, like have to work for somebody else's IP, ang main work lang ni Manix is working on his IP. Which is yung dream ng lahat.
Yes. Oo. Pero nga, yung parang if I were to put on my objective hat muna when it comes to Manix, yung analysis ko lang. This is my personal analysis lang. Kung sino man nanonood dito, wag niyo akong i-attack. Okay? So, impress ko lang to. So, di ba, si Manix Abrera, naging siya because he was in the Philippine Daily Inquirer, yung newspaper pa lang. Di ba? Which means, ang laki-laki na ng reach ni Manix from the very beginning. Yun. Number 2, yung tono ng kanyang humor. Yung tono ng kanyang humor is very young. It's very college humor. Yung ganon. So, parang, and then nung nag-transition to online, people who already know Manix na marami na, di ba? Parang, Manix is online. And then because it gets shared a lot, lalong kumakalat yung niya. So, kumbaga, it's a combination of, Manix was there in the right medium. He was there in the right medium, newspapers. He was doing comic strips, which are very sellable, which are very shareable, and very consumable, kasi hindi siya episodic. And then yun nga, because of the kind of humor that he has, na yung, parang kulit lang, trip lang, yung ganyan, and then some kind of, parang the whole Manix philosophy of life. Meron siyang mga ganon. So it's very attractive to the younger college crowd. Tapos, yun nga, dala-dala niya yan hanggang sa pagtanda nila. Yung ganon. And every new thing that Manix comes up with is just an iteration of what he's already very good at. So, parang, yun. So, that's a recipe that we all want to have.
Pero one thing I want to say about kay Manix, kasi a lot of people na hindi masyado nagbabasa ng kay Manix look at yung work niya tapos parang, you say na it's like simple strips lang. Pero malalim na tao si Manix. If you read yung strips niya, sobrang deep nung parang may layers yung sometimes makukuha mo lang if you are older. Pero yun nga, tama ka. If you are a student, makaka-relate ka. Tapos when you read it as an adult, meron ka pa makukuha ang ibang layer.
Makukuha ka pa. Meron kang makukuha. And kumbaga, yun, para sa akin, pwede nang ihilera si Manix along with along with, Paul Medina, along with, Ikaw Budbubwit, along with Larry Alcala, pwede na siyang ihilera doon.
Yeah.
Nandun na siya yung gano'n. Pero yung the thing about Nanix, he has so many years ahead of him pa.
Yeah,
marami pa siyang
only starting
magagawa. Yeah, oo.
Tapos aside from yung kanyang strips, he does other stuff din other art stuff din na mas nagbibigay nung nagpapabigat ng credibility niya, yung mga art exhibits niya. Tapos yung mga silent comics niya.
Yeah, he is a legitimate member of the art world. Hindi lang commercial art, kundi fine art. He is a legitimate member of the fine art world. So, saludo. Sana all. Yun lang naman sabi natin. Sana all. Ganyan.
Ayan, sir. Medyo mahaba yung usapan natin. Maganda yung usapan.
Ang daming pag-uusapan.
Ang dami pa actually. Final words na lang sa mga maaring manood nitong usapan natin. Especially for comics creators na naghahangad na pumasok dito sa magulo nating mundo.
Yung wow, yung masasabi, for those who want to make, yun ang tanong, for those who want to make, ang hirap sagutin yan ngayon kasi napaka-complex kasi the only advice talaga is, parang starting out, you just make kasi when you make, you'll find out exactly kung ano ang kailangan, kung anong klaseng lakas ang kailangan mo para makagawa ng comics, di ba?
Yes.
Doon mo lang madidiscover ganyan. Doon mo rin makikita kung saan ka mahina, sana meron ka makita kung saan ka malakas, yung ganyan. So it's a continuous development sa'yo. Pero yun nga, most importantly nga, yung it's the endurance. Yung parang, you really have to love it para tuloy-tuloy yan.
Yeah.
Yung ganon. And you'll only know if you love it kung medyo you stick to it for a while. Yung ganon. Kasi the test talaga kung talagang gusto mo siya is kung umabot ka sa point na wala ka lang gana, doon mo makita kung gaano mo siya kamahal. Kapag pahirapan na, when things get difficult. Yun.
Okay. Actually, add lang ako din, yung endurance na yun, hindi lang yun sa yung gawa ka lang ng gawa. Dapat you have to find din yung katulad yung sabi, if you find yung strengths mo, find mo rin yung paano mo mas strengthen yung weaknesses mo.
Yeah.
You have to learn, parang continuous learning process yung pagko-comics. Kasi if, yung katulad nga na pinag-usapan natin, if tumanda kayo, na-reach nyo na yung level na wala na kayong time para mag-evolve, may iwanan talaga.
Yes, exactly. So, yun lang. So kung sasama kayo sa comics, all the best. Good luck sa inyo. And hope to see you at wherever.
Sana magka-events na para magkita-kita na tayo.
Oo. Yeah.
Sobrang hirap nitong pandemic na puro Zoom meetings.
True. Ayun, on the other end, yung parang kahit paano, yes, medyo mahina tayo sa face-to-face. Pero if there's any small benefit na nagawa ng pandemic, is it allowed us to explore itong mga bagong channels na pwede pa natin gamitin. Kahit natapos na yung pandemic, meron na tayo.
And ang dami, yung delivery system natin is so good na you could buy books the same day, tapos makukuha mo din the same day. Hindi na kailangan maghintay the next day.
Oo. And in a way, it's also good for comics. Kasi, yun nga, parang na-open yung door for, the potential online delivery model for comic books. Yun. Medyo na-develop.
Kasi isa pa maganda, sir, na nakita ko is other creators talking to other creators.
Ayun.
Ang dami, ang dami. I just, pinanood ko yung sa inyo ni Josel the other day.
Oo. I mean, otherwise, hindi kami talaga mag-uusap in real life. Pero dahil sa
Ang daming creators na hindi naman nag-uusap sa actual event. Pero,
oo, true. Ayun. Well, thank you so much, John.
Thank you ulit sa time na nagulat nga ako biglang ang daming na kasi makakapag-usap.
People want to talk na.
So, thank you ulit, sir. Thank you sa mga
ingat.
manonood itong videos na to. Ay, na video na to.